The 1911 Xinhai Revolution, the uprising that helped shape the China of today. The 1911 revolution, also known as the Xinhai Revolution, ended China's last imperial dynasty, the Qing dynasty, and led to the establishment of the Republic of China. The revolution was a culmination of a decade of agitation, revolts and uprisings. The success of the 1911 revolution marked the collapse of the Chinese monarchy, the end of over 2 millennia of imperial rule in China, as well as the end of more than 200 years of the Qing dynasty, and brought in the beginning of China's early republican era. The Qing had struggled for several years to reform the government and resist foreign aggression. The program of reforms after 1900 was viewed as too radical by conservatives and as being too slow by reformers. Several factions, including anti-Qing groups, revolutionaries in exile, reformers who wanted to save the monarchy through modernization, and activists across the country debated on how or whether to overthrow the government. The flashpoint came on the 10th of October 1911 with the Wuchang Uprising, an armed rebellion among members of the new army. Similar revolts then broke out spontaneously across the country, with revolutionaries renouncing the Qing dynasty. Negotiations for change. On the 1st of November 1911, the Qing court appointed Yuan Shikai, a leader of the Beiyang army, as prime minister, and he began negotiations with the revolutionaries. In Nanjing, revolutionary forces created a provisional coalition government with the declaration of the Republic of China by the National Assembly on the 1st of January 1912. Sun Yat-sen, the leader of the Tongmenghui, was declared the president before a brief civil war between the North and South ended in compromise, with Sun Yat-sen resigning in favor of Yuan Shikai, who became the president of the new national government. Yuan then had to secure the abdication of the Qing emperor, the 6-year-old Xuantong emperor, who abdicated through the advice of the Empress Dowager Longyu on the 12th of February 1912, with Yuan Shikai sworn in as president on the 10th of March. In December 1915, Yuan restored the monarchy and proclaimed himself as a Hongxian emperor. This move was met with strong opposition from both the population and the army. This opposition led to his abdication in March 1916 and the reinstatement of the Republic. Yuan's failure to consolidate a legitimate central government before his death in June 1916 led to decades of political division known as the Warlord era, as well as an attempt at restoring the Qing dynasty. Organization. Within the earliest groups, there were many revolutionaries born into the idea of overthrowing the Qing government and to re-establish a Han-led government. The earliest of these organizations were created outside of China. Groups such as Young Kuwan's Furen Literary Society, created in Hong Kong in 1890, one of its members. Sir Swan Tse wrote political satire and became one of the founders of the South China Morning Post. The Revived China Society was established in 1894 in Honolulu, Hawaii by Sun Yat-sen, with the main purpose being to raise revolutionary funds. These two organizations merged in 1894. Smaller groups such as the Hua Xinghui or China Revival Society were founded in 1904 with the motto of "Take one province by force and inspire the other provinces to rise." The Guangfu Hui or Restoration Society was also created in 1904 in Shanghai by Tsai Yuanpei. Despite professing an anti-Qing stance, this group was also highly critical of Sun Yat-sen. Another member of Guangfu Hui was a famed female revolutionary, Chu Jin, who fought strongly for women's rights. Sun Yat-sen successfully united the Revived China Society, Xinhai and Guafu Hui in August 1905 to become the Tongmen Hui, or United League. This organization began in Tokyo with loose organizations distributed across China and overseas. When the Tongmen Hui was established, more than 90% of its members were aged between 17 and 26. In July 1907, the senior members of Tongmen Hui advocated for a revolution in the Yangtze Valley, and the Gongjin Hui, a revolutionary group, was established for this purpose in January 1911. This organization, together with the Literary Society, played a big role in the Wuchang Uprising. Many young revolutionaries vowed to introduce an anarchist program, while arguing that simply replacing one government with another would not result in progress. What was required would be fundamental changes to cultural, family, gender, and social issues. While some advocated for assassinations and terrorism, others insisted that education was the only justifiable strategy. Many of the early anarchists would later assume high positions in the Kuomintang. Prelude to revolution. The central focus of the uprisings was mostly connected with Tongmen Hui and Sun Yat-sen, although some uprisings involved other groups that never merged with Tongmen Hui. It is believed that Sun Yat-sen may have participated in 8 of the 10 uprisings, although all of these failed before the Wuchang Uprising, a revolt that Sun Yat-sen was not involved in. First Guangzhou Uprising. In the spring of 1895, the Revived China Society, based in Hong Kong, planned the First Guangzhou Uprising. On the 26th of October 1895, Yung Kuan and Sun Yat-sen led a group preparing to capture Guangzhou in a single strike. However, their plans were leaked to the Qing government. The government began to arrest revolutionaries, including Liu Haodong, who was later executed. The First Guangzhou Uprising was a failure, and under pressure from the Qing government, the governor of Hong Kong banned Yung and Sun from the territory for 5 years. Sun Yat-sen went into exile, first raising funds first in Japan, then the USA, Canada, and Great Britain. In 1901, following the Huizong Uprising, Yung Kuan was assassinated by Qing agents in Hong Kong. Independence Army Uprising. In the year 1900, after the Boxer Rebellion had started, Tang Saishan and Tan Sitong, previously of the Foot Emancipation Society, organized the Independence Army. This uprising was planned to begin on the 23rd of August 1900 with the goal of overthrowing the Empress Dowager Cixi and to establish a constitutional monarchy under the Guangxu Emperor. Their plot, however, was discovered by the Governors General of Hunan and Hubei, which led to around 20 conspirators being arrested, then executed. Huizhou Uprising. On the 8th of October 1900, Sun Yat-sen was involved in another attempted uprising when he ordered the revolutionary army of 20,000 under Zheng Shiliang and began the Huizhou Uprising, which was contested for about 2 weeks before it too was deemed a failure. One combatant in this event was a British soldier named Roland J. Malkern. The Great Ming Uprising. This was a very short attempted uprising beginning on the 25th of January 1903 and had petered out by the 28th, and involved participants who had taken part in the Jintian Uprising during the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom era. Ping Liu Li Uprising. Ma Fuyi and the Hua Xinghui were involved in the uprising in the 3 areas of Pingxiang, Liuyang, and Liling, known collectively as the Ping Liu Li Uprising in 1905. Miners were recruited for this uprising to rise up against the Qing. After the failure of this uprising, Ma Fuyi was executed. Beijing Assassination Attempt. Wu Ye of the Guangfu Hui carried out an assassination attempt at the Beijing Zhengyangmen East Railway Station in an attack on 5 Qing officials on the 24th of September 1905. Huanggang Uprising, Chaozhou. This attempt was launched in Chaozhou, Guangdong on the 22nd of May 1907 when the Revolutionary Party temporarily captured Huanggang City. However, the Qing government quickly and forcefully took the city back, with around 200 revolutionaries being killed in the fighting. Huizhou Xinhai Uprising, Huizhou. Sun Yat-sen was once again involved when several towns in Guangdong province came under attack from the 2nd to the 5th of June 1907 as elements of the Qing army fled in disorder. Many revolutionary organizations voiced their initial support after this uprising, which, like all the others mentioned, ultimately failed. Anti-Qing Uprising. Just a month later, on the 6th of July, Xu Shilin of the Guangfu Hui led an uprising in Anqing, Anhui province. Xu Shilin was at that time the police commissioner in addition to being the supervisor of the police academy. He led an uprising that intended to assassinate An Ming, the provincial governor of Anhui. The attack was beaten after 4 hours of fighting, and Xu was among those captured. An Ming's bodyguards cut out Xu's heart and liver and allegedly ate those organs. Xu's cousin, also captured, was executed a few days later. Qinzhou Uprising. To complete a busy summer of unrest from August to September of 1907, the Qinzhou Uprising in Guangxi province began as a protest against the heavy taxation imposed by the government. Sun Yat-sen sent Wang Heshun to assist the Revolutionary Army in capturing the county. While this was another unsuccessful attempted uprising, Wang Heshun was able to escape to Vietnam. Zheng Nanguang Uprising. On the 1st of December 1907 at Zheng Nanguang, close to the international border with Vietnam, Sun Yat-sen sent Huang Mintang to monitor the pass, which was guarded by a fort. With the assistance of supporters among those employed to guard the fort, the revolutionaries captured the cannon tower. Sun Yat-sen, Huang Xing, and Hu Hanmin went to the tower to command the battle. The Qing government counterattacked, and the revolutionaries were forced to retreat into the mountains. After this further failed attempt to revolt, Sun was forced to move to Singapore due to sentiments against him from several revolutionary groups. Sun Yat-sen did not return to mainland China until after the Wuchang Uprising. Xinliang Uprising, Guangdong. On the 27th of March 1908, from a base in Vietnam, Huang Xing launched a raid on the Guangdong cities of Qinzhou and Lianzhou. After 14 days, the revolt was forced to end once the revolutionary supplies were depleted. Hekou Uprising, Yunnan. The next uprising occurred in Hekou, Yunnan province in April 1908 when Huang Mintang led a raid consisting of 200 men based in Vietnam. The attack came to nothing as they were heavily outnumbered and thus defeated by Qing soldiers. Ma Paoying Uprising, Anhui. Launched by the revolutionary group Yu Wang Hui on the 19th of November 1908, this assault was also a failure. Guangzhou. February of 1910 brought an uprising known as the Gengshu New Army Uprising, or the Guangzhou New Army Uprising. This incident became a conflict between citizens and local police, together against the new army. After revolutionary leader Li Yingdian was killed by Qing soldiers, the revolution was quickly defeated, causing the failure of the uprising. This was followed on the 27th of April 1911, an event known as the Second Guangzhou Uprising, also known as the Yellow Flower Mound Revolt. It ended in disaster with 86 bodies discovered, with only 72 able to be identified. The 72 revolutionaries were described as martyrs. One of the revolutionaries that died, Lin Yuemin, on the eve of the battle wrote, "A letter to my wife," later considered to be a masterpiece in Chinese literature. Wuchang Uprising. For a detailed account of this event, watch this video. This was the event that brought about change in Chinese society and kicked off the Xinhai Revolution. Beginning on the evening of the 10th of October 1911, the Wuchang Uprising had effectively taken control of the city by the end of the following day. Provincial uprisings. Changsha, Hunan. On the 22nd of October 1911, the Hunan Tongmenhui were led by Jiao Defeng and Chen Zuoqin. They were head of an armed group that consisted of revolutionaries from Hongjiang and partly of defecting new army units that began an uprising in the provincial capital of Changsha. The city was captured and the local imperial general was among those killed. Once in control of the city, the Hunan military government was established as they announced their opposition to the Qing Empire. Shanxi. On the same day the uprising began in Changsha, another uprising unfolded to the north of Shanxi's Tongmenhui attacked the ancient city of Xi'an, which fell after 2 days of fighting. The Hui Muslim community was divided in their support for the revolution. The Hui Muslims of Shanxi lent their support to the revolutionaries, while the Hui Muslims of Gansu were in support of the Qing. The native Hui of Xi'an joined the Han Chinese revolutionaries in the slaughter of the Manchus, while the Hui Muslims native to Gansu province and led by Ma Anliang had the backing of more than 20 battalions of Hui soldiers in defending the Qing and attacked Shanxi. After the success of the uprising, news arrived that Puyi was about to abdicate and Ma Anliang switched sides and agreed to join the new republic. The Xi'an Manchu quarter fell on the 24th of October, with Xinhai soldiers killing around 20,000 Manchus resident in the city, with many others choosing to commit suicide. Some wealthy Manchus were ransomed, with wealthy Han Chinese seizing Manchu girls as their slaves, while poorer soldiers seized young Manchu girls to be their wives. Zhujiang, Jiangxi. On the 23rd of October, Tongmenhui members in the province of Jiangxi plotted a revolt against units of the new army. There was also a Qing naval fleet that joined the revolt against the state. After their victory, the Zhujiang military government was established. Shanxi. Almost a week later, on the 29th of October, an uprising led by Yan Xishan took place in the Shanxi capital of Taiyuan. The rebels attacked in the streets, killing all the Manchu they found, in addition to the province's Qing governor, Lu Chongqi. They then established the Shanxi military government with Yan Xishan installed as a military governor. Kunming. In the capital of Yunnan province, the Tongmenhui launched what became known as a double ninth uprising on the 30th of October, with Kunming captured by the following day when they established the Yunnan military government. Nanchang. On the 31st of October, the Nanchang branch of the Tongmenhui led a successful uprising where they quickly established the Jiangxi military government, with Li Liejun elected the military governor, with Li declaring Jiangxi's independence as he launched an expedition against the Qing official Yuan Shikai. Shanghai. On the 3rd of November, the Tongmenhui, Guangfu and Shanghai merchants organized an armed rebellion with support from the local police. Jingnian workshop was captured on the 4th, and on the 8th the Shanghai military government elected Chen Qingmei as its new governor. Cheng would eventually become one of the 4 big families that were instrumental in founding the Republic of China. Guizhou. On the 8th of November, Guizhou's Revolutionary Party, led by Zhang Bailin, began an uprising with students from the military academy and immediately captured the provincial capital of Guiyang, and in doing so created the Great Han Guizhou military government. Zhejiang. There was a second uprising that also occurred on the 4th of November when revolutionaries in Zhejiang province attacked Hangzhou. New army units had joined forces with the revolutionaries to attack the military supplies workshop, while other units under the command of Chiang Kai-shek captured the government offices to take control of the city. Anhui Zhu Jiabao, the governor of Anhui province, announced Anhui's independence after Tongmenhui revolutionaries launched an uprising and laid siege on the provincial capital of Hefei. Guangxi. On the 7th of November, Guangxi Politics Department announced it had seceded from the Qing government, thus announcing their independence. The Qing governor, Shen Bingkun, remained as governor. However, he was soon replaced by Lu Ronting. Lu would later rise to prominence during the warlord era, when bandits under his leadership would control the province for more than a decade. Guangdong. While other uprisings already listed took place in Guangzhou, there were numerous uprisings across the remainder of the province, including Huazhou, Nanhai, Sunda, and Sanshui. As a result, Guangdong province announced its independence on the 9th of November and established its own military government. Shandong province followed the route of several other provinces in declaring its independence on the 13th of November after seceding from the Qing government. Nanjing. On the 8th of November, an uprising began in Molin Pass, around 30 kilometers from the city of Nanjing. Tongmenhui generals formed a united army to initiate a combined attack on the city of Nanjing. 3 days later, on the 11th of November, the United Army headquarters was established in Zhenjiang. Between the 24th of November and the 1st of December, the United Army captured numerous Qing strongholds, including Wulongshan, Mufushan, Yuhuitai, and Tianbao. On the 2nd of December, Nanjing fell to the revolutionaries in the Battle of Nanjing, 1911. The following day, Su Lianbi led his soldiers in a massacre of Manchus, an act he was later arrested for, and his army disbanded. Dihua and Yili Uprising. On the 28th of December, in Xinjiang, revolutionaries under the leadership of Liu Shanzun began the Dihua Uprising, an event that eventually failed. Just over a week later, on the 7th of January 1912, the Yili Uprising was launched. In this revolt, the Qing governor Yuan Dahua fled and offered his resignation because he would not fight the revolutionaries. On the 8th of January, the new Yili government was established by the revolutionaries. Some Chinese historians today believe this incident was a crucial factor in the failing of the Qing government, because this prevented the Qing dynasty's plan to flee to Xinjiang. Changes to the Chinese government. North. Qing court final transformation attempt. On the 1st of November 1911, the Qing government appointed Yuan Shikai as its prime minister of the imperial government, replacing Prince Qing. 2 days later, on the 3rd, a proposition from the constitutional monarchy movement passed the 19 articles, which passed the Qing from an autocratic system with the emperor holding unlimited power to a constitutional monarchy. On the 9th of November, Yuan Shikai was invited to join the republic, but the inevitable changes to the Qing court were made too late and the emperor would have to step down. South. Provincial government in Nanking. On the 28th of November 1911, Wu Chang and Han Yang had fallen back to the Qing army. For safety, the revolutionaries convened their first conference at the British concession in Hankou on the 30th of that month. By the 2nd of December, the revolutionary army had captured Nanking, and they decided to make this city the site of the new provincial government, while Beijing was still in effect the Qing capital. North-South Conference. On the 18th of December, the North-South Conference began in Shanghai to discuss the issues affecting the two regions. there was a reluctance from foreign financiers to give any financial support to the Qing government or to the revolutionaries, and this forced the two sides to begin negotiations. With the intervention of 6 foreign powers, the UK, the USA, Germany, Russia, France and Japan, negotiations to find a settlement began at the British concession chaired by Edward Selby Little. An agreement was reached that Yuan Shikai would force the Qing Emperor to abdicate in exchange for the southern provinces' support of Yuan as President of the Republic. Sun Yat-sen agreed to Yuan's proposal to unify China under Yuan Shikai's Beijing government, and that the emperor would rule over his little court from the new summer palace and be given expenses of several million taels in silver to do so. Establishment of the Republic. Republic of China declared and national flag issued. On the 29th of December 1911, Sun Yat-sen was elected as the first provincial president, and the 1st of January 1912 was set as the first day of the first year of the Republic of China, with Li Yuanhong recommended as the provincial vice president. During and after the 1911 revolution, many groups that participated wanted their own pennant as a new national flag. None were however chosen so as not to favour one group over another. The new national flag would be the 5 races under one union banner with horizontal stripes representing the 5 major nationalities of the Republic. Red represented Han, yellow Manchu, blue Mongols, white Muslims and black for Tibetans. Despite Manchus being a significant target of the uprisings, Sun Yat-sen was amongst those advocating for racial integration to be conducted throughout the Republic. Donghuamen Incident. On the 16th of January, while returning to his residence, Yuan Shikai was ambushed in a bomb attack organised by some members of the Tongmenhui in Donghuamen, Beijing. The attack involved 18 revolutionaries and around 10 of Yuan guards were killed, although Yuan himself avoided any serious injuries. The following day he sent a message to the revolutionaries pledging his loyalty and asking them to not organise any further assassination attempts on his life. Abdication of the Emperor. The imperial edict of abdication was delivered for the abdication of Puyi on the 20th of January, which is followed 2 days later by Sun Yat-sen declaring he would resign the presidency in favour of Yuan Shikai if Yuan supported the abdication of the emperor. Yuan Shikai then pressured the Empress Dowager Longyu with the threat of sparing the imperial family if they agreed. If they refused, the arrival of revolutionaries in Beijing would offer no guarantee their lives would be spared. On the 3rd of February, the Empress Dowager Longyu gave her full permission to Yuan to negotiate the terms of the Qing Emperor's abdication. On the 12th of February, Puyi, then aged 6, together with Empress Dowager Longyu, accepted the terms of his abdication. Capital location debate. One condition Sun Yat-sen set for conceding leadership to Yuan Shikai was to insist that the provisional government remain in Nanjing. However, on the 14th of February, the provincial senate voted 20-5 in favour of making Beijing the capital over Nanjing, with 2 votes for Wuhan and 1 for Tianjin. The Senate majority wanted to secure the peace agreement by taking power in Beijing, reasoning that having the capital in Beijing would be a check against Manchu restoration and a perceived threat of Mongol secession. But Sun continued to argue in favour of Nanjing. Wuhan was offered as a compromise, and the following day a second vote took place. This time the vote was 19-6 in favour of Nanjing, with 2 votes for Wuhan. Sun sent a delegation to persuade Yuan to move to Nanjing. However, on the 29th of February 1912, riots and fires broke out across the city, allegedly started by soldiers loyal to Yuan Shikai. The outbreak of disorder gave Yuan the option he needed to remain in the north to guard against unrest. On the 10th of March, Yuan was inaugurated in Beijing as the provisional president of the Republic of China. On the 5th of April, the Provisional Senate in Nanjing voted in favor of making Beijing the capital of the new republic and relocated to that city by the end of that month. Republican government in Beijing, with Yuan Shikai installed as president in Beijing. The Kuomintang was formed on the 25th of August 1912 and held the majority of seats after the election, with Song Jiuren elected as leader of the party. Song was then assassinated on the 20th of March 1913 in Shanghai, allegedly under secret orders of Yuan Shikai. Proposed Han monarchy. There were people advocating for an ethnic Han to be installed as a Chinese emperor, either a direct descendant of Confucius or a descendant of the Ming imperial family. The Duke of Yanshang was one of those proposed as a candidate by Liang Qichao. The Han hereditary aristocratic nobility, such as the Duke of Yanqing, were retained by the Republic of China, and title holders continued to receive their pensions. A plan backed by foreign bankers was allegedly in place to declare the Duke of Yansheng as Emperor of China should the revolutionaries' republican cause fail. Legacy. Social influence. After the revolution, there was a huge outpouring of anti-Manchu sentiment throughout China. This was particularly evident in Beijing, where thousands had died in anti-Manchu violence. Imperial restrictions on Han residency and behaviour within the city crumbled as the imperial power held by Manchu evidently crumbled. During the abdication of the last emperor, Empress Dowager Longnu, Yuan Shikai and Sun Yat-sen tried to adopt the concept of Manchu and Han as one family. People began to explore and debate among themselves as this new search for identity became labelled as a new culture movement. However, despite this, Manchu culture and language became virtually extinct by 2007. Unlike many Western revolutions, the 1911 revolution did not restructure society. The participants in the 1911 revolution were mostly military personnel, old-time bureaucrats and local gentry. These people still mostly held regional power after the 1911 revolution, some later becoming warlords. There were no major improvements in the standard of living, with the author Lu Xun commentating in 1921 that 10 years after the 1911 revolution that basically nothing had changed, with the exception the Manchus have left the kitchen. This largely did not improve until after the creation of the People's Republic of China in 1949 under Mao Zedong. The 1911 revolution was responsible for removing feudalism from the late imperial period. Historians view there were two restorations of feudal power after the 19 revolution. The first of these was by Yuan Shikai, the second by Zhang Shun. Due to the effects of anti-Manchu sentiment after the revolution, the Manchus of the metropolitan banners were driven deeply into poverty, with many men becoming too impoverished to marry. So Han men married Manchu women, Manchus stopped dressing in Manchu-style clothing and practicing their traditions. Conclusion. This video may appear on first reflection being nothing more than a list of events, but the reality was that these multiple events, while conducted separately, the majority were not successful, yet together they culminated into one of the greatest changes in Chinese history, ending Imperial China and the onset of the revolutionaries on their march towards a republic. After the success of the Wuchang Uprising, several other protests occurred throughout the country for various reasons. Some uprisings declared a restoration of rule under the Han Chinese, while some uprisings were a step towards independence, while others were simply protests against the local authorities. Regardless of the reason for each of these uprisings, the outcome was that the majority of provinces within China renounced the Qing dynasty, as their actions led to the formation of the Republic of China and later the People's Republic of China in 1949. That brings us to the end of this video, highlighting a historical era that has helped shape China today. If you've enjoyed watching and has shown you a little detail of life and events here in China, then your subscribing to my channel would mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching. Make sure you click on the link to the next video, and until the next time, goodbye for now.